Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a story that's turning a lot of heads in the aviation and defense world, because even before the public knows what the so-called F-47 really looks like, US pilots are already training for it using the brand new T-7 Red Hawk jets, and that alone tells us a lot about how serious and advanced this program might be. The idea of pilots training for a secret aircraft might sound like science fiction, but in reality this is how modern air forces stay ahead, and the US Air Force has always believed that preparing people is just as important as building the machine itself. To understand why the T-7 is so important here, we first need to look at how fighter pilot training has changed, because the era of simply flying faster or higher is long gone, and today it's all about data, sensors, networking, and decision-making under extreme pressure. The T-7 Red Hawk isn't just a trainer in the traditional sense, it's more like a flying classroom designed from day one to prepare pilots for next-generation fighters that don't even officially exist yet. Unlike older trainers, the T-7 was built using digital engineering, which means its systems can be updated quickly, almost like software, allowing it to simulate the behavior, sensors, and combat environment of future aircraft. This flexibility is exactly why the T-7 is being linked to training for the rumored F-47, which many believe could be part of the US Air Force's next-generation air dominance program. While the Air Force hasn't officially confirmed the F-47's details, the name itself suggests a future beyond the F-35 and even beyond experimental aircraft we've heard whispers about. What makes this training so interesting is that pilots aren't learning to fly a specific airframe yet, they're learning how to think, fight, and survive in a battle space that future aircraft like the F-47 are expected to dominate. Modern air combat is no longer about dogfights alone, it's about managing massive amounts of information from sensors, drones, satellites, and other aircraft, all while making split-second decisions. The T-7 allows instructors to change the virtual environment around the pilot, making the jet feel like it has advanced stealth sensors, AI-assisted systems, and even unmanned teammates, all without revealing classified hardware. This means pilots can train for missions that involve technologies still under development, which gives the US a massive head start compared to waiting until the aircraft is officially operational. Another key point here is that training early reduces risk later, because when the F-47 finally enters service, pilots won't be starting from scratch, they'll already understand the philosophy behind how it fights. The Air Force learned this lesson with earlier jets, where pilots sometimes had to adapt on the fly, slowing down operational readiness and increasing accidents during the early years. With the T-7, the goal is to create pilots who are already mentally prepared for advanced stealth operations, electronic warfare, and AI-driven combat before they ever touch the real aircraft. The cockpit of the T-7 also plays a huge role in this process, because it's designed with large digital displays, open architecture software, and controls that resemble those found in next-generation fighters. This familiar layout helps pilots transition smoothly from the trainer to frontline aircraft, reducing the learning curve and increasing confidence. When people hear secret F-47, they often imagine a single superjet, but many experts believe it's more likely a system of systems, where the piloted aircraft acts as a command hub for drones and other assets. Training for that kind of role requires pilots to think like mission commanders, not just pilots, and that's exactly what the T-7's advanced simulation capabilities are designed to teach. In training scenarios, pilots can practice controlling loyal wingman drones, managing sensor data, and coordinating with other aircraft across vast distances. This kind of training is essential for future conflicts, where air superiority may depend more on information dominance than pure speed or maneuverability. The secrecy around the F-47 also makes sense from a strategic point of view, because revealing too much too early gives potential adversaries time to adapt and develop countermeasures. By focusing on training first, the US can quietly prepare its pilots for capabilities that others don't even know exist yet. Another important aspect is cost, because training pilots on a flexible platform like the T-7 is far cheaper than using frontline fighters for basic and advanced training. This allows the Air Force to save flight hours on expensive jets while still delivering high-quality, realistic preparation. The T-7's digital backbone also allows the Air Force to update training scenarios rapidly as intelligence and threat assessments change. If a new enemy radar system or missile threat is identified, it can be integrated into training simulations almost immediately. That means pilots are always training against the most realistic and up-to-date threats, which is critical in a fast-changing global security environment. The connection between the T-7 and the F-47 also highlights how the U.S. military is thinking long-term, planning not just for the next war, but for conflicts decades into the future. By aligning training aircraft with future combat systems, the Air Force ensures continuity and adaptability across generations of pilots. This approach also helps attract younger pilots who grew up with digital technology and expect modern interfaces rather than outdated analog systems. From a strategic perspective, this training sends a quiet but powerful message to rivals, showing that the U.S. isn't just developing advanced aircraft, it's building an entire ecosystem around them. Even without official confirmation, the fact that pilots are already training for a future platform suggests confidence in the program's progress. It also reduces the shock factor when the aircraft eventually becomes public, because the people who matter most, the pilots, will already be ready. There's also a cultural shift happening here, where pilots are being trained to trust AI assistance and automated systems, something that wasn't always easy for older generations. The T-7 allows pilots to gradually build that trust in a controlled environment, learning when to rely on automation and when to take manual control. This balance will be critical in aircraft like the F-47, which are expected to use AI heavily for threat detection, targeting, and mission planning. Training early also helps identify potential issues with human-machine interaction, allowing designers to make improvements before the aircraft enters full production. In many ways, the T-7 acts as a bridge between today's fighters and tomorrow's air combat concepts. It prepares pilots not just to fly, but to operate within a highly connected, data-driven battlefield. The secrecy surrounding the F-47 might frustrate aviation fans, but it's a reminder that the most important progress often happens quietly. What we do know is that training is no longer an afterthought, it's a core part of weapons development. By starting pilot training early, the Air Force reduces uncertainty and increases the chances that new aircraft will be effective from day one. This also helps maintain air superiority, because technology alone doesn't win wars, skilled and prepared people do. As more details eventually emerge, we may find that the F-47 represents a major leap forward, not just in hardware, but in how air combat is fought. Until then, the T-7 Red Hawk remains a key piece of the puzzle, quietly shaping the next generation of U.S. fighter pilots. So while the aircraft itself remains in the shadows, the training happening right now tells us that the future of air combat is already taking shape. And if history is any guide, when the F-47 finally steps into the light, the pilots flying it won't be surprised at all, because they've been preparing for this moment all along. That's all for today's breakdown. If you enjoyed this deep dive into next-generation pilot training and secret aircraft programs, make sure to stay tuned, because the skies of the future are closer than we think.